Well, welcome to Impact Moment. I am Pastor Donna from Impact Church located in Aurora, South Dakota. And we are finishing our book that we've been in for about 8 weeks now. And it's called Surprise the World with Michael Frost. And we have been talking about different ways that we can be more missional in our lives as disciples. And we are in chapter 8, and we're really talking about discipleship, nurture, and accountability. So, basically, we're talking about everything that we've learned so far and how do we actually hold ourselves accountable to doing what we've learned. So, we are on page 100 or 101 if you're following along. There's a portion that was referred to from the author Jeremy Dean, and he's written the book Making Habits, Breaking Habits, Why We Do Things, Why We Don't, and How to Make Any Change Stick. That's probably one of the longest titles I've ever seen. But it sounds like a really good book. But he wrote about the following. He's talking about how long does it actually take us to make things more habitual in our lives so that it's just muscle memory. And he says the simple answer is that on average, across participants who provided enough data during a certain research, they say it took 66 days until a habit was formed. He says, as you might imagine, there was considerable variation in how long habits took to form depending on what people tried to do. So people who resolved to drink a glass of water after breakfast were up to maximum automaticity after about 20 days, while those trying to eat a piece of fruit with lunch took at least twice as long to turn it into a habit. The exercise habit proved most tricky, with 50 sit-ups after morning coffee still not a habit after 84 days for one participant. Wow, that would be me. Yeah, it could be 100 days and I'm still not going to do that. But walking for 10 minutes after breakfast, though, that was more easier for their participants, and it turned into a habit of just 50 days. So walking for 10 minutes after breakfast, yeah, that seems a little bit more doable than 50 sit-ups. I don't know if I can do one, so embarrassing but true. So it was just kind of interesting. It depends on really your personality and what type of habit that you're trying to form as to how long it actually takes to form a habit. So very interesting. But our author of our book, Michael Frost, talks about creating what's called a DNA group. So what exactly is a DNA group? So he recommends having 2 to 3 friends who are on this missional discipleship journey with you. And this helps to hold each other accountable with encouragement and support. Because even when we do anything, we find that it's much more fun and we are able to stick to our habit making better if we do it with someone. And that's what he's really trying to focus on, that, we take everything that we've learned from eating with people, blessing people, journaling often, and doing this with our friends. And so he really talks about this DNA group, and the DNA group stands for discipleship, nurture, and accountability. So we'll start with the first one, which is the D out of DNA. So that's discipleship. And he says that discipleship is when we share with each other what you've learned about Jesus, because one of the habits that we're supposed to do is learn Jesus. Who have you eaten with that week? Who have you blessed that week? And when we share these different experiences that we have with our friends, that we will in fact be teaching each other from the Word of God. And you'll be discipling each other based on the missional experience that you've had developing the 3 or the 5 habits that we learned in our book. So, very, very neat. Then he talks about the second part of DNA, which is the N, and he talks about nurture. He says, if you can't fulfill the 5 habits that we've learned, don't worry. He said, your group is there to encourage you and support you when things get overwhelming. And we all know that we have craziness in our lives, and sometimes our weeks fly by and we're like, I didn't get anything done that I was supposed to do. But that's okay. And that's why we have these friend groups that we can really lean on each other and say, you know what, hey, I kind of need help. I fell off the bandwagon on this week for doing anything really. So can you help me set my goals for next week? And that's what our friends are there for. So then he also talks about the very last part of DNA, which is accountability. Okay. So he says your group will also hold you to the commitments that you together as a group has made. And so really you need to come together with your 2 or 3 friends and figure out, okay, how are we going to formulate our group? And how are we going to check in with each other weekly? Is it by phone? Is it by lunch? Is it by text? Is it by email? Is it through Zoom? There are so many different ways right now with tech that we can really still be in each other's lives around our own schedules, which is awesome. So how and who do you think you can invite into your own DNA group? Which 2 to 3 friends do you think would be perfect to embark on this journey with? So, and it's all about mission work. So, and I do have a question for you. Last week we talked about the importance of journaling, and really journaling is really writing down all of our experiences that we've reached out to someone, we've blessed someone, we've ate with someone, we've mentioned Christ, or we've taken the time to learn Christ, be in devotional time with Christ. How well did your journaling go last week? Was it kind of an eye-opening experience for you by journaling? I think for some you might be really shocked that, you know what, I'm really pretty missional in my life as a disciple. And if your eyes have been open that, you know what, hey, I really don't do much, well, no worries. There's still time that you can develop your missional discipleship. So I think this book has been really, really, really awesome. And he even gives you some nice questions and an accountability form for each of our DNA groups. And he listed in the very back of the book. So he's got the questions and he's got some lines for you to fill in. But the first one is bless. So whom did I bless this week? And he has about 12 lines of like names you can write in. Then he says what questions or issues or learning arose from blessing this week. And he leaves us some room to fill that in. And he also wants us to ask our DNA group, with whom did I eat this week? And these are people that are outside of our normal family get-togethers. So was this someone from your church? Was this someone from your work? Was it someone that you really didn't even know that well? Was it your neighbor? And what questions or issues or learning rose from eating with someone that week? And what did I hear from the Holy Spirit this week? And what did I learn or relearn about Christ this week? And then he has a pretty good section on being sent out into the world, doing our missional discipleship. He says, share 2 or 3 journal entries about how you alerted others to the reign of God. So there's some really nice forms that we can create for our DNA accountability groups, and it would be really fun for churches or even individuals to really utilize this book and get into groups, get into your friendship groups, and discover the ways that you can truly be missional. So that is our book in a nutshell. But we are going to go into another book, and it's called The Circle Maker, and it is by author Mark Batterson. I don't know if you can see that pretty well, but this is what the book actually looks like. It's red with the white circle around it. and it's The Circle Maker. So, and it is by Mark Batterson. So, this is a really interesting book. So, kind of give you a little synopsis of what it is like. So, we're really talking about our dreams and also our fears, but really, how do we draw prayer circles around our dreams? And how do we kind of put together our plans for our futures? And how do we kind of invite God into having this time of prayer time with circling? And it is such a moving experience to actually do circle prayers. And we will go more into depth of that next week. But he says, do you ever sense that there's far more to prayer and to God's vision for your life than what you're currently experiencing? I think for a lot of us, we keep on thinking there's got to be more to life. And it's time you learn from the legend of Honi, the circle maker. And this is a man that was bold enough to draw a circle in the sand and not budge from inside it until God answered his prayers for his people. What impossibly big dream is God calling you to draw a prayer circle around? Sharing inspiring stories from his own experiences as a circle maker, the author, Mark Batterson, will help us uncover your heart's deepest desires and God-given dreams and unleash them through the kind of audacious prayer that God delights to answer. So, this has been a really interesting book. One of the churches that I had worked at, we had probably about 800 church members, and we decided that everyone was going to get a book for free at the church's expense. And so we spent quite a few, I would say a good 2 months in the book with all these different groups. And we had so many concurrent groups going on at the same time. It was amazing. So, but there's numerous places that you can get this book. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of them, but anywhere that you normally get your books, you can find this book. And so again, just to put that picture back up, it is The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, and we will be beginning this next week. And of course, you can always find us right here every week on Facebook and YouTube, so be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so that you never miss any of our videos, because not only do we do this devotional on here, but we also upload our services so you can see and experience our church services. So with all of that, I just hope you had a wonderful Lenten season, and we are going to go into the next church season together and with this brand new book, The Circle Maker, and we will see you next week. Thank you.